Good morning. Well, we have been hearing that the job of a diplomat is to lie. But then that lie has to be for the good of the country. Howsoever, diplomats may lie, but politicians definitely lie. Duplicity, double dealing, hypocrisy, these are the hallmarks of any effective politician. But let me tell you, not of a statesman, but of a politician. Statesmen are open, full of candor, full of honesty, full of integrity. And there's a major difference between statesmen and the politicians. Statesmen are remembered for ages. Politicians are forgotten the next day, even before they are dead. Statesmen are like Lincoln, George Washington, Disraeli, Gladstone. They are like Garibaldi. They are like Bismarck, Gandhi. And politicians are dime a dozen. And in Canada, we put a lot of store on two things. One is the human rights, and the other is honesty, integrity, transparency, clear-headedness. Imagine my shock when I see that we are neither honest nor transparent. Well, we are transparent. Transparent to show our stupidity and idiocy. Transparency to show our hypocrisy. You see, we claim from the housetops, from the rooftops every day, that we'll have very good foreign relations with the countries that have a good human rights record. Great. I appreciate it. Now imagine the foreign minister of Canada, who was hoping at one time to be the prime minister, comes on mic and announces that they will not supply or sell arms to Thailand. Why? Because Thailand has a poor human rights record. Great. And then comes the news, or rather reaffirms in the same breath, without winking an eye, that Canada stands committed to sell arms to Saudi Arabia. And the arms is not a small sale. It's worth $15 billion. And Saudi Arabia is a country which is not only having an absolutely horrendous, despicable human rights record, but is also the promoter, the financier, and the storehouse of terrorist activities all over the globe. Thailand may have a poor record, which it hasn't, not as bad as Saudi Arabia has. But it at least does not go out and interfere in the internal affairs of the countries. Thailand has not sent its forces in Vietnam. It has not sent its forces in Cambodia. It has not sent its forces in Laos. It has not sent its forces in Malaysia. It has not sent its forces in Singapore. It has not sent its forces in Indonesia. These are the surrounding countries. Saudi Arabia sent its forces to Qatar, to Yemen, to Egypt, to Iraq, to Syria, and what not. Now, coming to the other part about the human rights record, there's an institution, Freedom House, and the job of the Freedom House to evaluate different countries on the basis of their human records. 0 is excellent, and there's no country having 0. 7 is the worst, and Saudi Arabia has a distinction of being the worst country, and Thailand has 5.5. So it's midway between the best and the worst. And yet, the government of Canada, in its peculiar sense of justice and fairness, denies the arms to Thailand, but doesn't deny them to Saudi Arabia. Now the question arises, whenever you make a sale, or whenever you formulate your foreign policy, the major objective is A, your ideals, B, your benefits. As far as ideals are concerned, we have decided and we have seen that refusal of the arms to Thailand while giving arms to Saudi Arabia knocks the bottom out of any claim to have high ideals. That's absolutely not there, because the record of human rights record of Thailand is much better than that of Saudi Arabia. Now comes the second part. Why? Saudi Arabia, apart from being a destroyer of the human rights, apart from being the exploiter of women, apart from being the birthplace of Wahhabism, which gave birth to fundamentalism in Islam, apart from being the promoter of oil lobby to the detriment of the prices to the consumers, Saudi Arabia, the persistent interceptor in the working of the other countries, is the recipient of largest why? Well, that's the reason apparently to me is that the Wahhabism that has a lot of votes here in Canada is influencing the decision. Since Thailand, a Hindu country, doesn't have pretensions of promoting Hinduism, and that's a very sensible suggestion and idea which the Thailand government is doing. But Saudi Arabia is persistently promoting terrorism, and the government wants to be on the right side of the people who have the capacity to make or unmake a government. So keep the masters happy, and their followers here in this country will vote for you. That is the reason why Stephen Dion, in the government of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, has taken this very ambivalent, confusing, as well as contradictory action. Now, what are going to be the repercussions? Let's not forget that Far East is a much bigger market than Middle East is. During my comments last time, I had said that Canada, in case it wants to survive as a developed country, it will survive anyway. But in case it's to retain its preeminence as a developed country, it must have access to the markets in South Asia and in Far East. By denying the rights of Thailand, it has not only annoyed Thailand, but it has also put a spanner in the minds of those people in that region, Far East region, that maybe Canada is indirectly aligned to terrorism. Let's not forget that Indonesia, the largest Muslim country in the world, has been a victim of terrorism. It's Bali bombing or a racket, and so are the other factors. So those people would now have second thoughts of dealing with Canada. TPP is going. Now this is a pure economic situation. TPP is gone with the coming in of Trump. We had to have bilateral relationship, and this section of Stephen Dion is simply making that bilateral agreements impossible. Secondly, The whole of the Middle East is a witch's cauldron, boiling, where human rights have no value, where democracy has no value, where anything good is at a discount, anything human. And that's not a big market. Let's be very clear. The biggest market would be South Asia and Far East and Africa, not the Middle East. So, why this action then? As I said, the only reason that I can visualize is being penny wise, pound foolish. You want to perpetuate the rule of your party, and for that you are sacrificing the principles of the country. You are sacrificing not only the principles, but even the well-being of the country. Maybe the intentions are not bad. I don't know. Maybe they have some hidden agenda, but they are not disclosing that. And if they have a hidden agenda, then where is the transparency in our actions? This contradictory approach is prejudicial to the interest of the country, to the interest of the peace, and to the interest of the world order. By giving $15 billion to Saudi Arabia, we are enablers of terrorism indirectly. We are promoting and strengthening a country militarily, the country which is promoter of terrorism. And not only promoter, but an active exporter of terrorism and fundamentalism. I wish that in such a vital matter, the government of Canada had conducted a series of consultations with the people, the right thinking people, not some of the people who are in the coterie, in the clique, formulating the policies. And majority of the Canadians would tell them that this policy which they are adopting is disastrous. Disastrous for the country, disastrous for the world peace order, and would promote further bloodshed in Middle East. Now what do we want? Do we want the perpetual decimation of the innocent people? Do we want women to be permanently debarred, exploited, and treated as chattels? Do we want religious strife to continue unabated, rather increase? Do we want our economic interests to be hindered, obstructed, and impeded by the policies that are, to say the least, I wouldn't call them insane, but inane at least, inappropriate, incomprehensible, and unacceptable? I was thinking that this government would have taken a more humanistic view. They were all the time claiming before the elections peace, world order, no exploitation, gender equality. Is this the way they are going to do it? By decimating the other groups? Not by doing themselves, but by helping those exploiters achieve their nefarious goals? As I said, every government foreign policy is based on self-interest. Why are we sacrificing our self-interest? And why are we sacrificing our values? This is a question which has eluded me. This is a question which is beyond my comprehension. If some of you have a better explanation, I'd like to know that. But one thing is sure. This is a sure road to ridicule, condemnation, either vocal or muted, and ultimately perdition. We are not being very realistic. I won't care. I won't care if the interest of the country, if the Canadian interests were upheld. Short time even. But here we have no guarantee that our interest would be promoted either in short time or for the long time to come. This is a shot which we are inflicting on ourselves. We are actually shooting ourselves in the feet. And we are shooting ourselves in the feet simply because of the mental acuity and mental myopia of our leadership. I would say it's time still for the government to reconsider its policies and act in the national interest. First, human interest, world peace, next. But let's not sacrifice our values, our interests for the paltry gains that still may not be there. Those gains are transient and not very definite. Let's not lose ourselves in the maelstrom of cheap politicking. That would be a disaster for the country and may also inflame the already burning fires in Middle East. This is a time to reconsider. Thank you.